Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 891A, and today's date is February 11th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Market is Starting to Crack Under the Economic Collapse Pressure. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Well, we are seeing that the market fluctuations are continuing. We see that the market was down quite a bit today. They pumped it up to about 250 so points. And we see gold surging to new highs. And we need to be very careful about what's going on right now. We're starting to see the entire economic system crumble apart and fall apart because more and more people are becoming awakened to what's really happening here. And a lot of people are going to be running to the exits. And I know a lot of people are saying, wow, gold has gone up. It's skyrocketing. And a lot of financial pundits and a lot of others are out there saying, wow, this is going to go skyrocketing at this point. I'm thinking the opposite at this time because we need to think about what the central bankers are trying to do here. They're trying to keep the economy propped up because they cannot have it come down just yet. And if gold surges to new highs at this point, this would be a problem. So most likely, we're going to see a flash crash of some sort, either maybe tomorrow or the beginning of next week, which will bring gold back down $20, $30, $40. And it's going to be a lot of paper contracts that are going to be thrown onto this, and most likely it will be brought down. Let's see if this actually happens, because if they do this, we know that this is completely manipulated. We know that they're not ready to bring down the economy. We know at this point they're going to try to keep this going for a little bit longer. If gold continually rises and they can't slow it down, no matter what they do, if they do the flash crash and it continually goes up, we know at this point that this system is coming down, because what's going to happen is everyone's going to be looking at gold. They're going to see it rising, and a lot of people are going to be taking their funds out of the stock market, out of the banks, and piling it into gold, and this will just accelerate as time goes on. Remember, the Fed gave us the signal when they raised the interest rates by 25 basis points, letting us know they're prepared to bring down this economy. This was the signal, even though the other countries and the other central banks were going negative. We see the United States was showing and forcing the issue that we were in a recovery. So we're going to have to watch this situation very, very carefully. But we see the market at this point, it is completely falling apart. And when we look around the globe, we're starting to realize that everything that we've been talking about, all of these economic indicators, global trade, the Baltic Dry Index, shipping, trucking, retail, GDP, the manipulation of statistics, unemployment, you name it, it is all pointing to one thing and one thing only. And that is a major economic crisis, which we will be seeing. Now, the initial jobless claims came out, and the initial jobless claims, they dropped last week from 285 to 269,000. And Goldman is out there saying there is only a limited evidence that the rise in claims is due to distress in the energy sector. And continuing claims dropped modestly to about 2.239 million, but Goldman adds the persistence of the recent moves suggests more might be going on, and we are treating the increase as more than just noise. The trend of initial jobless claims is on the upward trend. We've hit the bottom in September. They've done all their manipulation. They've done whatever they possibly could. And we see that initial jobless claims dropped a little bit. And because they dropped a little bit, we see the corporate media is out there and, of course, being pushed by the U.S. government, saying that since initial jobless claims are low, this shows no sign of rising layoffs. Really, no signs of layoffs whatsoever. As of December to January, we're up 218% in layoffs. If we go back 1 year to the same month of January, we are up 42%, according to Challenger Gray and Christmas. So where are they looking? And we're seeing more and more corporations, more retail stores laying off people. Broadcom Ltd, 700 people. Husky, 400 people. Mad Cats, 37% of their staff. And the layoffs continually keep on coming. But again, as we know, the government got rid of that department back in 2013 because of budget cuts that looks at layoffs and records layoffs. Now, Trump is out there and he's saying, okay, the unemployment is nowhere near 4.9%. Nowhere near 5%. Nowhere near 8%. He's saying that the number is closer to 28, 29, 35, maybe even 42%. And I completely agree with him. That yes, the numbers that we are being fed by the government are fake, phony, and false, and even he is catching on at this point. Now, we realize that this economy, as we've been looking at manufacturing, we've been looking at wholesale to inventory, we've been looking at the Baltic Dry Index, which is stable right now at 290 points, which is the lowest we've ever seen, even lower when it first started. But everything is starting to fall apart. And I'm starting to see that a lot of these banks, a lot of these financial analysts that are out there, they're all looking at everything saying, there might be some type of recession coming or something might be headed our way. Well, I hate to say it, it's already here. But what's very interesting coming out of Bank of America is that they're talking about going long on gold right now because they're saying that gold is going to start to increase as time goes on. And they're looking at gold going to 1550 right now, and they're going long on gold. Out in London, we see lines around the block to buy gold in London. They all want physical at this point. Bullion by Post, Britain's biggest online gold dealer, said it has already taken record day sales of 5.6 million worth of gold. As traders pile into gold following fears the world is on the brink of another financial crisis. Yes, because people realize what is going here. Here in the United States, most of the people, no clue. Central banks right now have accelerated their purchasing. And it jumped 25% in the fourth quarter from a year earlier. We can see what's happening here. People around the world are preparing. They're purchasing gold because they realize gold is money. It's an insurance policy. Here in the United States, we've been taught that gold is used for jewelry. Gold is something that you don't keep. Cash is king. But in reality, gold has been around for thousands upon thousands of years. And at this point, everyone needs to purchase some type of precious metal. Silver, gold, it doesn't matter what it is. I don't sell it. I have nothing to do with it. But wherever you're getting it, I would go and get some. Because what we saw today, if that kind of scared you where you saw gold increase by $50, $60 per ounce, guess what? When this market starts to crash and fall apart, you're not going to see 60, you're not going to see 50, you're going to see $300, $400, $500. It's going to go up so fast, you're going to be like, oh my God, I should have gotten gold. I should have gotten silver. Now I'm completely out of the market. I can't even get it. And you won't be able to get it because everyone will be rushing to get it. Now take that instance of gold, what we saw today, and put that on food in stores, provisions, supplies, medical supplies, toiletries. when everything starts to fall apart, what do you think is going to happen at this point? And the stores will run out of these goods. Things will break down. You don't want to be in that scenario where you cannot get supplies. So if you are prepping, continue to prep. If you're getting gold and silver, continue to buy it. If you haven't, I would go out and get it. If you're getting food right now, continue. If you haven't even started, I would start right now. We are running out of time. Make sure you have toiletries, batteries, a weapon, cash on hand. You need to have these things. You don't want to be sitting there saying, oh, I should have done this. If you haven't started, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags, seeds, water filtration systems. They will customize your order for whatever you want, and you can get it delivered right to your house. And we see Obama's recovery right now is completely failing. I mean, think about it. The global equity market right now, investors have lost $16.5 trillion in market capitalization over the last 6 months. I mean, this is not a recovery. Things are falling apart. The government implemented many different ways to bring in revenue to the government. They tried Obamacare. They tried FATCA. And I don't know if everyone realizes this, but the government, they spent about $1 trillion to implement FATCA, which they will go across the ocean, look for those people that have funds in different banks, and tax them. And they thought they were going to bring in a huge amount of revenue because they thought everyone was hiding their money out there. There must be trillions upon trillions of dollars out there. Well, guess what? FATCA, just like Obamacare, is a complete failure. They've only brought in $13.5 billion after they spent $1 trillion to implement. What does this tell you? The funds they are looking for, they do not exist. The people are tapped out. The people in the United States are tapped out. People have been losing their jobs. They're not going out to spend. They're scared. They're keeping their money. And we're seeing signs that this economy is continually falling apart, and it is accelerating. Deutsche Bank, we see that they are teetering on a disaster. But what's very interesting about Deutsche Bank is when we look at the 5-year sub-CDS and we compare it to Leeman, the graphs look identical. And we know what happened to Leeman. And when we look at this, we see that it is worse than Leeman at this point. And if you want to see the graphs, you can come to the X22Report.com site. Just click on today's episode, and it'll bring you right there. If you're on YouTube, you will see the graphs. But we see that this whole thing is completely falling apart. Now, a lot of countries are going negative interest rates. Sweden now has decided to cut their rates to negative 0.5%. Negative 0.5%. And we see they're doing whatever they possibly can to keep this system alive. And you know what this means when they're in this negative range of interest rates? You're really paying them to keep your money in the bank. And actually, what would be the reason to keep your money in the bank if you're getting negative interest rates? Well, that's the whole point. They don't want you to. They want you to take it and put it into the stock market. But most people are taking it out of the banks and keeping it because they're nervous, they're scared. Yellen is discussing negative rates in a congressional testimony. And we know that ECB, Sweden, Japan, Switzerland have all done this. And we see they have no clue at this point of what to do as the economy falls apart. Remember, they want a controlled collapse. They want to make sure that they have the ability to bring it down when they want to bring it down. They don't want outside forces coming in and destroying what they want to do here. Because as we know, they don't want to be blamed for what is going to happen here. And this is why they're going to try to prop it up as best they can. They're going to go negative interest rates. They're going to push the markets up. They're going to slam gold down. They're going to try all these different things to keep everyone in the dark that everything is okay. And we're going to have to watch these situations very carefully. Now, something very interesting. We know that the Zika virus is being hyped up, pushed out there, that it causes microcephaly. And I see in the corporate media already, they're trying to shift the focus now, saying the economy might get weaker because of the Zika virus. Because what's happening in all of these countries, and this might affect the economy. I mean, they're doing whatever they possibly can to explain away why this is happening right now. Because you have to remember, for the last 8 years, the central bank, the Fed, the U.S. government has been pushing the meme that we've recovered, we're fine, unemployment's down to 4.9%, we have a very strong economy, the stock market's up, there's nothing to worry about. I mean, out of the State of the Union address, Obama was telling us that the economy is absolutely perfect. But we know it's not. We know it's falling apart. We know things are getting worse. And this is why we're looking at indicators. We're looking at every aspect of the economy to give us a picture of what's really going on. Because you know the corporate media, the government, they're never going to tell you what's going on. All they do is look at the stock market all day long. And anyone that comes up that tells you that, there's problems, something's wrong, retail's closing, they pretend that person's a crazy person. And the government and the corporate media will continually keep this illusion alive until the very, very end. And at that point, it is going to be too late for everyone. And I just want to make sure that everyone realizes at this point, and if you've been following all these reports and all those people that have been sending me things, putting the picture together here, we realize that this economy cannot be sustained the way it is right now. It's not a people's economy. It's a central bank economy. It's a government illusionary economy. And it will collapse just like it did in 2008. Remember, they told us back then that everything was going to be fine. And if you listened to them and you went out and you purchased a home right before it collapsed, you went out and you purchased a new car, or you took out a loan, guess what? You had problems afterwards. That's why we saw people leaving their homes in California. This is why we see foreclosures. This is why we saw short sales. This is why the economy fell apart in 2008. That was actually the collapse of the economy. But what they did was they blew it back up with this money printing, with manipulating statistical numbers to keep the system alive a little bit longer. And what have they been doing all this time? Well, yes, we know they've been moving military assets around the world preparing for a major event. But they've been preparing for when this system comes down. They took the time to make extra preps to make sure they were prepared for what was going to happen. And now it's your turn. It's your turn to make sure that you have been prepared and ready for this next collapse. Because this one is going to be a lot worse than the first one. This one is going to affect all those people that weren't affected. This one is going to completely implode everything. And you need to be ready and you need to be prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.